Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us again. This week we're on chapter 4 of Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. And this chapter, we're continuing to talk about the Beatitudes, and this chapter is entitled Blessedness. Blessed are you. And what this chapter sort of goes into in three different sections by three different authors is, what is the nature of blessedness? And how is it distinct from happiness, as it's sometimes translated, or pleasure that we experience in our lives as a result of good things happening to us. As most Americans will know, the Declaration of Independence submits that we have an unalienable right to the pursuit of happiness, as the first author points out. And he says it's interesting that Jesus never said, blessed are the happy. And actually, all the blesseds are, in some ways, the opposite of what we might think would make us happy. Poverty, mourning, being persecuted. These are not...
Yeah, being meek or humble.
Yeah, being meek and humble. These are not things that you would imagine would make you particularly happy. And that's why we have to dig a little deeper as to what blessed really means. You know, have you read C.S. Lewis' Surprised by Joy?
No, I mean, I've read other works by C.S. Lewis, but
That's a really good one, and I think he makes a great distinction there, which I just looked at again this morning. He sees joy, which is, I guess, also blessedness, as this sort of unsatisfied desire, which this unsatisfied desire is in itself more desirable than any other satisfaction. And I think that's what we see in the Beatitudes, is a desire, is a longing for God, is a longing to be, to have ourselves in harmony with His will for our lives. And C.S. Lewis sharply distinguishes this joy, this blessedness, from a feeling of pleasure and happiness, because it's never in our own power. We can never experience this as a result of our own actions, as we can maybe with pleasure. So we can decide to have a fun meal with our friends, or we can decide to watch a movie or do something that's enjoyable that will make us happy. But this blessedness, this joy, is something that's deeper. Living in accord with nature, in harmony with our deepest aspirations as human beings. So it's not, Beatitudes are not like a 10-point program to how to be happy.
No, it's not. And the thing about happiness is it is so transient and it's so dependent on external factors. So I think going back to the Beatitudes, the blessings Jesus bestowed on people, it's beyond any of our abilities or actually our wishes to do that. And Kathy Escobar writes about that in her passage about downward mobility, to not be afraid of just diving down into the wretchedness of human existence. But I think you have to take it a step further and actually want to do something about that, and to actively choose joy. And I think joy is actually an inner feeling, but happiness can be an outward expression of that. So it's not to be afraid of happiness, and that I think in and of itself, it's kind of just a benign or inanimate thing. Like it can express selfishness, but it also can be an outward expression of the joy that you do find that's from deep within and actually given by God. So
yeah, I think, the emotion of happiness can be in things that are wrong, just like many things that God gives us can be used for wrong. Food, drink, relationships. These are all God-made things, but they can be experienced or used in the service of things that are not ordered toward God. So,
right. And happiness is really about what you can find in the world, whereas ultimately that's not the reward that we're actually hoping for.
Yeah.
That's eternal, and that's in the kingdom, so it doesn't compute all the way.
Yeah. One thing I thought was kind of interesting there's these phrases we hear, which Kathy Escobar points out,
Yes.
that we sort of say mindlessly from time to time. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. God helps those who help themselves. These are all things I know I've said, and they're attractive ideas. You tell your kids, if you want to achieve, you got to really put in the effort, and and it's true in a way, but these are also just kind of not. They're not what the Beatitudes point us to.
Right. And maybe Kathy Escobar's point was that they also how do I say this? They kind of like point towards your own human power and what you yourself can do, whereas, you're not putting your full trust and faith where it actually belongs. So maybe I took that as a challenge from her understanding of that. Yeah.
I mean, but again, not to say that we shouldn't try hard. We shouldn't work hard and
can't use it as an excuse.
As an excuse for being slackers.
Right.
That's also not right. We close this chapter with a selection from Francis of Assisi. And he asked the important question, let us consider, my dear brethren, what our vocation is as Christians. What is our vocation? That's something I think we always have to go back to. And it's not only for our own salvation. And for those of us who have been called to live together, we need to remind ourselves what it is. It really is to come closer to God and come closer to His teachings. And anything that derives from that, anything that grows out of that is wonderful, but those are not the main things, right? Even as wonderful things as charitable works, it's wonderful, or any number of things that can be seen as well. But our primary vocation is to live close to God and try to order our lives in such a way that we can experience this blessedness, this sense that our lives are as it says in the letters, hidden with Christ. So.
The one phrase or the one sentence I picked out of here that was really inspiring to me was, be therefore patient in tribulations, fervent in prayer, and fearless in labor. And that is so awesome, because that's also what you get to do when you live together, is to be fearless in labor and support each other in all different endeavors, no matter what. So, yeah, exciting.
Yeah, great chapter this week. And look forward to next week, chapter 5, Poverty of Spirit. We'll see you then.